All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode, another conversation of callings and careers. We're so excited that you all are tuning in with us today. It is such a joy, a privilege, a blessing to be here. We are streaming on multiple platforms live. Some of you may see this later on demand, but I want to say welcome to all of our Facebook friends, our LinkedIn audience, and all of our friends and family and folks on YouTube live as well. We're so honored to have you all. And you may see a different face. Listen, my co-host Jessica, she's going to be joining us later on in the conversation today. She has not left the building, people. She's not gone. She's going to come back. I know y'all love Jessica. We love Jessica and appreciate so much what she brings to the table. And Jessica is one of our, she's our co-host, but she's our alliterator extraordinaire. She's going to give us alliterations. Even when she does her introductions, it's like, hey, I'm called to melanin millennial moms, just all these M's and all that stuff. But we're thankful for this platform. And I'm excited about our guest that is with me today. He's a guest to y'all. He's a friend to me. He's a friend to my family, friend to our church, friend to our pastors as well. And I'm thankful for him. And I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. But for those of you that are new to this particular platform, some of y'all see me in so many different spaces, but in this particular space, this is Callings and Careers, a multi-month conversation that we engage in to help you flourish in your faith in the workplace, to help you flourish in your faith in the workplace. And we are committed to saying to everyone that there is a method and a wisdom for discovering your calling and then developing in your career. We want you to flourish in the workplace, develop in your career, and we want you to be in a space where we can have Christ-centered career coaching conversations where we believe that it doesn't have to be either or, it can be both and. Yeah. You can have a flourishing faith, be in love with God, be thriving spiritually, but also be on your game in your professional career, have a dynamite grand slam resume, the credentials, the skills, the hard skills, the soft skills. Some people say that neither one of those are real. It's all just skills, whatever it may be, that you can be a game changer, an industry standard pacer for your industry, whatever that might be. And so we want you to get what you need to get and do what you need to do, but also more than anything, be who you need to be. That's right. One of the hard conversations when it comes to your career is money. So earlier I said that Jimmy is not just a guest on our show. He's a friend of mine. And again, Jessica Canty, my co-host, is going to be joining us in just a little bit. By the way, I'm Christopher Harris, for those of you that may be new or don't know that. And you can find me at ChristopherJHarris.com. You can also find me at diversechurchjobs.com, where we're particularly passionate about helping candidates of color find ministry opportunities and ministry jobs. But money, it's such a sticky subject. And there's so much mystique about it, so much unknowns about it, so many secrets sometimes it can feel about it. And so today we're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about salaries. We're going to talk about salary negotiations. And Jimmy Moore is actually one of my financial representatives, my personal financial representatives, my wife and I, that is. He helps us specifically as it relates to some of our investments and some of our retirement stuff. And when we meet on a multi-annual basis, first of all, I want to give it up for his administrative team. Because they keep texting me until I find a time, y'all. Listen, these people deserve a gold medal.
Yes. Amen.
It was like, yes, they do.
This man is busy.
But they keep at it, and they make sure that Jimmy and I get our multi-annual meetings in. And when we meet, Jimmy's like, hey, Pastor Christopher, I know you want to do this, but it may be wise to do this. And he just kind of lays it out there, no pomp and circumstance. And then we just make the best decisions that make the most sense. So, Jimmy, man, it's good to have you on today.
Oh, it is my pleasure to be here. It really is an honor to be with you, of course, Pastor Christopher, and of course, your audience. So, yeah, the honor is definitely mine.
Yeah. Jimmy, really fast, just kind of tell everybody, how did you get into this space? How did you arrive at this hat that you wear of helping to create financial foundation and legacy for so many people?
Yeah, thank you for letting me share this because this will maybe speak to a lot of people out there in a lot of different ways. That you know, eh, making a very long story as short as possible on this at this time we have together. Um, I was in a place of comfort.
Yeah.
I have been in the music retail industry for 25 years, doing very well. Had a family, the primary breadwinner in my family. My wife was working part time as an exercise specialist, and my church, my wife and I, we led a Bible study group, a life group at the time, and we were all going through a financial course at the church that we were going to share with our life group, with our Bible study group. And about 3 weeks into that course, I realized, wow, this is exactly what we've already done. Our financial advisor has done this for us. And the Lord really laid it on my heart. This needs to be shared. And I thought that
Mm,
maybe, Sunday nights on the weekends, maybe I'd go out and do something like that. And then I was out playing golf with my financial advisor at the time. And he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about being an advisor?" And I was like, "Well, no, I really hadn't." And he says, "I think that you'd be really good because where we're at, we really look for people that care about other people and trying to help other people." And I didn't
mm.
tell him the Lord had already laid on my heart a little bit. But of course, I told him the normal Christian thing. I'll pray about it, right? So I said, "I'll pray." And just kind of blow him off, kind of thing. But the Lord kept dealing with me because, look, I was established 25 years, senior sales manager at the largest family-owned music store in the country,
Mm,
doing well, and it would have been a big sacrifice for me to do that. So just kind of blew it off. And then another time, a few months later, he asked me the same thing. And the
mm,
Lord had really been dealing with me. My wife and I, we really started praying about it, and she was on board. So I told him, "Hey, run it up the flagpole, Fortune 500 company, here I am, I've been in the music industry, nothing will probably come of it." And sure enough, I got an interview, then I got a second interview, it's a big process in the financial services industry. And it was a big leap of faith. It truly was, because I was leaving a job where I was a primary breadwinner with no promises of the future as
mm.
far as salary or anything like that, and having to take all the courses, Series 7, Series 66, insurance licenses, all these type things, um, with no safety net. And I stepped out on faith. Uh, my wife was 100, and that was very important. My wife was 100% supportive. We prayed about it. We felt the Lord leading us in that way. And man, it has been an incredible blessing ever since, because God put that on my heart to help people with their finances for the kingdom, and working for people to strive to break those generational curses, to move forward for the next generation and the next generation after that. Working for God's kingdom has been an incredible blessing, and not I haven't looked back once.
Wow. You said something that I find kind of interesting. We've known each other now, I think it's been 6 or 7 years, maybe eight.
Hmm.
And I kind of see your rhythm a little bit and know a little bit about your personality. You said without a safety net. That doesn't sound like Jimmy Moore's personality. Um, uh-oh. I think did we lose Jimmy? We
No,
got you? Can you hear me, Jimmy? You got us? All right, good. That doesn't sound like your
yeah,
personality.
yeah, I'm good.
No safety net. So did you really launch out into this new career without any safety net at all, or had you kind of prepared yourself? You had some savings and some resources to kind of carry you and your family?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. I mean, I had some of that, but as far as a salary coming in,
Oh,
I wasn't going to have that. That's what I mean by as far as safety net. As far as yeah, I've always been kind of a saver. My wife's been good about that also, putting monies away, and of course, trying to pay cash for things. And like I said, going through that financial course, we were doing a lot of those things. Life insurance, making sure in case one of us were to pass away or become disabled or something, we were taken care of. So we had those things in place. So, but when you say, "Hey, look, I'm going to quit this job where it's making a decent amount of money," I had 25 years wrapped up in this, and then all of a sudden I'm going to this entirely different field. that's a big leap, right? And so, total faith in the Lord that He was going to provide, that He was going to continue to let us, to live the lifestyle that we were continuing to support the things that we like to support, because there are charities, not just our church. We like to give to certain charities and things like that. Also,
Mm.
we wanted to continue to do that, and He allowed us to do those things.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump into the conversation here. And thank you for sharing a little bit of your journey there. And we probably will have you back to share some more.
Mhm.
But Jimmy, where do we start with this? What's one of the first mistakes you've seen people make when it comes to even arriving at a reasonable salary for their job, or even exploring the conversation around salary for their job?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say, whether we're talking about salary or whether we're just talking about finances in general, the most important thing is our mindset. I would
Mm,
have to say it's the way we think about money.
mm,
Okay.
mm.
And we have to have a godly vision. How does God see money, right?
Yeah.
We have to be good stewards also with money, because a lot of times the amount of money doesn't make a difference. There are some people that they make $50,000 a year, and that'll be fine, and they live right at 50, and all of a sudden they'll make 80, and guess what? They live right at 80. Then they make 100, and then they live right at 100. And so it's really saying, okay, what's our basic living expenses? What do we need to survive on? And then what do we want to do? We always want to give, save, and spend, right? Be able to give, save, and spend. Don't let money control you. If you can give money away, if you can tithe and give to your local church, if you can, money will never have control over you. God doesn't tell us to give because He needs the money. He's got everything, right? I mean, it's all His. He tells us to give because He wants us not to be, controlled by money. And so if we can always give some away, we won't be controlled by money. So same thing with salaries, right? We want to be valued.
Mm,
Um, we want to be compensated for our value. And that's legit, okay? Because business owners, okay, they take a risk when they become a business owner. And so when you look from their standpoint, they're like, hey, look, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to put my neck out there. I'm investing money, even if it's just in a business license. They're putting money into this thing, hopefully to make more money and be an entrepreneur. Um, salaries, salaries for a business is usually the most costly thing in a business, paying salaries. And so successful business owners watch that very closely, and they want good people. Don't think that businesses want slackers. They don't. They want good people. That's why they have benefits packages, and we can get into that in a little bit. But
yep.
They want good people. They want to attract good people, and they want to keep good people.
Yep.
Okay, but good people want to be compensated for that also.
Yeah.
And so there's two things as far as, with salaries. It's one thing if you're going into a job interview, and it's another thing if you've already been established at a job. So let's take them both one at a time.
Yep.
If you're going into a job interview and it's not just them interviewing you, understand you're interviewing them also. Is this a place I want to work? Is this an environment I want to work in? Is this where God, has me, do I need to be here? Is this where God wants me? Ask during the interview process, what is their benefits package? That's very important. Ask what it is, because a lot of times people go into a job just because of the hourly wage, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make $20 an hour at this place. Well, I'll make 22 at this other place. Well, the place at 22 doesn't have a benefits package. The place at 20 does have a nice benefits package. So it could make more sense for you and your family to take the $20 an hour job because of the benefits package. And another thing is, when you ask about the benefits package, that's impressive. That's impressive to an employer. Wow, this person, they're asking about the benefits package. Okay, let us tell you about what it, because look, owners are putting money into these benefits packages to attract good people. They want good people. And so a person that's knowledgeable about benefits packages, that's definitely a plus.
Yep.
You'll want to also ask at that time, do they do performance evaluations
Mm,
or an annual salary review?
mm,
Okay.
mm.
Performance evaluations or an annual salary review. Because, a lot of companies, you'll get a job with them and you can be there 15 years and never have gotten a raise. Because why? Because you never asked. It's not that you're not doing a good job. It's just that if they don't have to pay you more, you think they're going to pay you more if that's their biggest expense? Well, no. So you are being evaluated every day. Trust me, if you work for a place and they're paying you a salary, you're being evaluated. And if you're not doing your job, phew, you're going to go, right? Or you're going to get written up and things like that. So they're evaluating you whether they think they are or not. In their mind, your supervisors are evaluating you all the time, whether they put it on paper or not. So find out ahead of time, what is that process? So you can know what it is you need to do to make more money later in this company. Now, if you're already in a company, okay, and they have no performance evaluations, they have no annual salary reviews or anything like that, then you're going to need to ask. You're going to need to ask. If you think that you're doing above and beyond, you need to be compensated more. Don't be confrontational. That's very important right off the bat. You don't give an ultimatum, right? You've been with the company 5 years, like, hey, make more money. I want to make more money or I'm out of here. You don't want to start off like that. You may get there, but you don't want to start off like that.
Yeah.
You just want to ask, what is it that I need to do to make more money? What can I do? And companies like that, but companies want to grow, right? They want people that are enthusiastic. And they may say, well, maybe you need to get, some type of a designation, some kind of education designation, or maybe you need to work, do a different department or be know more about different departments or who knows what, right? But at least ask and then say, okay, that'll give you an idea of what you need to do to make more money. And if they say, well, no, we like you, you do a fine job for it. So, well, it's been X amount of time. I haven't gotten any, I've gotten a bump in my salary. I, wonder what it would take for me to get that. And they'll just hopefully be honest with you. And then you strive for whatever. Not knowing is the worst thing. It's like, what else can I do? I think I'm doing a good job, but maybe their perspective is different, right? Usually we have a very good, vision of what we're doing. And we think we're doing a good job, right? But maybe they see something different, right? So don't be offended if they say, well, you could do this better, right? We should always be trying to improve at whatever it is we do as Christians. We always want to get better. I pray all the time that God, please make me the best I can be at whatever it is I do. Whether it's a hobby I do, whether it's being a dad, a husband, whatever, help me to be better all the time. Let
me mention something really fast, Jimmy. I think two things really powerful about what you're saying. First of all, when you mentioned earlier about the way you approach it, the way you approach these conversations, and that kind of thing, it really speaks to your character, right? And when you were talking about, hey, issuing an ultimatum and how you do that, and all those things, I think it's really important for us to stress that, even in terms of the salary, determining salary negotiation, benefits package, all those things. How you engage in this conversation is a learned skill. And it is not one that you should let just your emotions drive the conversation, which is what I heard, one of the things you're saying. Because if you let your emotions drive this, you're going to end up in the wrong place. I think the second thing that that kind of stands out to me as you're talking, which I think, I want to address this, that I've heard a lot of Christians from different streams, not just charismatic, but even Lutherans and AME and, all kinds of things, very conservative liturgical backgrounds, kind of blame the devil for human missteps in conversations about salary and benefits package. And what I hear you saying is, if you don't do your research, that's not the devil's fault.
No. You're right. Yeah.
Go ahead. I want to do those two things.
No, it really isn't. And I tell you what, sometimes we're our own worst enemy. Because we can run all kinds of scenarios in our mind, right? Especially when it comes to something like this. Pray. I say pray beforehand, but pray about, that your supervisor, boss, whoever would be open to the conversation. They may ask you to write, have it in writing, and that's fine too. But pray before you go in there, because it can be an emotional kind of thing. You're asking for, more money. But, it could be deserving. It could be very deserving. And if it's not, and you get some pushback like, well, we really need you to do this better, that, don't be offended. Just, take it as, okay, all right, well, I'll do that. And once you do that, then we'll see. Understand, your boss doesn't know about your finances.
Mm.
Okay. I mean, a lot of times we just think, well, these are my finances. You're in it every day. You just think the people around you know. I mean, just because somebody drives a hoopty doesn't mean that, they know that you don't have a lot of money. A lot of people that have a lot of money drive hoopties. And that's why they have a lot of money, because they don't spend all the money on cars, right?
Yeah.
So, and then someone that has a really nice car, they might think, well, that person has a lot of money, but you don't know. They could be up to their gills in debt. So they don't know your situation. Okay. So don't take it personal.
Mm.
Just, but it's okay to ask, but pray about it beforehand. Be humble about it, right? We just want to be good stewards of what God's blessed us with. If He's blessed you with the ability to work, that is a blessing. There are a lot of people that can't work
Mm.
because of physical, mental, emotional situations. If you're able to work, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
You just want to, get what is your due, of course. Absolutely.
That's good. That's so good. And I think too, when you talked about prayer, I think healthy preparation is also a part of prayer.
Yes.
Um, and I thought you were getting ready to say this earlier, but you kind of went another direction. Um, I've seen people that have also walked into meetings asking for more, right? Cost of living increases, that's one conversation, but asking for more in a salary. And what they asked for, you can tell that they didn't do any research, not only on that industry, but they didn't do any research on the company. So, for example, if your company is a $500,000 company, it's probably highly unlikely for you to walk in the door and ask for a $100,000 salary.
That's right.
That's just not that. I mean, what is the percentage on that? So $500,000, and then you ask for $100,000 salary. What is the percentage on that?
Yeah. So yeah, that's crazy. You're not going to get that right from the company. Another thing is look, what about state to state? You might say, well, I have this degree and I'm going to work in Florida, let's say.
Yeah, that's
Well,
five.
someone in New York, okay, they're going to get paid more. So if you just do an average, or if you just look at one state and go, well, they're making this up there, that's what I'm going to ask for. Don't do that. You have to really compare apples to apples, right? What is a person in this state making doing what I'm doing, right? And if it is higher than what you're doing the same job, then there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're already making like a lot more than the average person, then there's a good chance that you may not get that raise, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to do your research. You have to look and see, am I really getting paid less than what I think I should be, or should I not? So and make sure you're getting good information. Don't just go to one source and that's it. You really need to go to multiple sources to try to get that information.
And I think there's a honesty pill that has to be swallowed here too, because as you do that research, and you said this earlier, like what can I do to make more money, right? If you're already at the job, you mentioned earlier, your company may say to you, I want you to go add another credential or add another certification or something to that degree. But when you're doing these negotiations, if or doing the research, if you only have 3 years of experience in that space, a bachelor's degree, you can't do research based upon somebody that's got 20 years of experience in that space and a terminal degree, a master's, specialist, doctorate, whatever that might be in that space. Because what you're trying to demand is not realistic, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's very similar to, the young couple that they get married and all of a sudden they want everything that their parents have, right? They want the big house, the 3 cars, all that stuff. Well, this is what my parents have, so what we just had, right? It was like, well, you're starting from ground zero now, kind of thing, right? So yeah, again, apples to apples, oranges to oranges. You've got to make sure it's the proper comparison, or you're going to look silly, right? So, and if you do that research though, then kudos to you, and that'll go a lot further, talking to your boss about that.
Yeah. How many years since you made the switch into the financial services industry?
10 years.
It's been a decade now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you worked in one space for 25 years.
Yeah.
You're now 10 years into the financial services industry.
Mhm.
With what you see today, if you had to just write down 2 or 3 observations of significant shifts that have happened that will be helpful for people in this conversation, just in your last 35 years of professional work, what would be 2 or 3 things that have stood out to you to say, man, I would have never thought that this would be a reality, but here's where we are. Or, here's something that I saw coming and I didn't know that this was going to happen, but I saw elements of it, or whatever it might be.
It's funny. So there are some incredible things, but there are some basic things. So solid biblical financial principles will stay. They will always be here, right? The
Mm,
Bible's true. It's real. So that's great. So we have that foundation. We do have that safety net. We have those things, but we use new tools.
yeah.
The technology that we have these days, look what we're doing right now. This is amazing, right? I mean, we can talk to all these people all over the place, right? We don't even have to be right next to one another. It's affordable. Use the technology that's out there.
Mm,
And it's just, whether it be for education, right? There's so many, like, you can get your college degree online now and things like that. You don't have to go to a brick and mortar. And I mean, homeschooling and all kinds of stuff that people can take advantage of. So yeah, in my industry, we are constantly having to re-educate because legislation changes in finance, and so we're constantly, having to keep up on things like that. And we use technology to do that. I don't have to go to classes, at a school someplace. I mean, we're doing everything online. We're taking tests online. And some tests we have to go down and actually, take. But most of the time everything is online. So yeah, use the technology, I guess, the way that how rapidly it's changing. And now we have AI.
mm,
That's an incredible tool. Now nothing will replace the face-to-face personal conversations in finance that you have with your pastor or in finances. I mean, you're not gonna, AI is not gonna, take that over, but we can leverage it for certain things. So I think those are the things I didn't see. I didn't know that it would happen this rapidly, and it's just going to continue to just continue to ramp up and ramp up.
what's in Jimmy Moore's brain about what the next 10 to 15, 20 years might look like?
Oh man, let me tell you, I'm so excited because I really am. I just came from the Kingdom Advisors Conference in Orlando, which is an amazing thing for financial advisors, Christian financial advisors.
Mm,
And it helped me to refocus. How when things are new and God's working, things are wonderful. It's kind of like a person when they first become a Christian, right? And they're just on fire, and then all of a sudden after time you become more mature, right? But we kind of chill out. It kind of was that rejuvenation of why I'm doing what I'm doing. And they just stress that we are financial pastors, you
wow.
know, with what I do. I mean, I'm helping not just I help individuals. Absolutely. That's what I mainly do. I help, individuals like yourself and families, husbands and wives and families. But I work with a lot of nonprofits. I work with a lot of churches, setting up endowment funds, right? I mean, these things are going to be around way after I'm off this planet, unless the Lord comes before then. Once I'm gone, these things are still going to continue to help fund these churches to stay alive. They're going to continue to help fund these Christian nonprofits to continue to be around and serve the communities. Long after I'm gone. So I'm excited about that. And then the generational changes that are happening in people's lives, that has always excited me so much. Giving financial education, because all I really do. I'm just an educator. I educate my clients on financial things. They're plenty smart enough to make the decisions they need to make. I help guide them through those things, but it's my job to just educate, how these things work. What do they do? What are the pros and cons? And they're passing that on to their children. So now I have clients that I'm working with their children. And I had just 2 weeks ago, I was on a call with clients in Egypt. They're missionaries, and their kids wanted to know about investment. These are little kids, right? They want to know about investments. So I spent 45 minutes, just talking to these kids over in Egypt. Their parents are missionaries, about investments. What are stocks? What are bonds? How do they work? That kind of thing. But man, I tell you, time is the most important thing when you're talking about investments, when you're talking about finances, starting as early as possible, putting money away, just being a good steward, living within your means, being a good steward. It takes so much pressure off, because so many people live under that pressure of finances and bills and trying to keep up with the, next people. I mean, we don't want to do that. That's not a biblical way to live.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So one of the I want to come back to the benefits package salvation. I mean,
Yeah.
benefits package. I'm sorry, of salvation. No, benefits package that you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But I want to pause for a second. I want to ask a question because I know that this is something that comes up quite a bit in a lot of spaces and circles. When a person is working on a job and then they hear teachings about purpose and walking in God's calling for your life and all of those things, and someone may say, but the job that I have, I don't think is my purpose. How do I navigate? Do I start a part-time job? Do I start a full-time job? Do I walk up the full-time job? Do I, like, how do I do this? How do I navigate that? What would you recommend to them from your seat if a person has the tension where they're not in their purpose place?
Mhm. Well, if a person is truly seeking and walking with the Lord on a daily basis, where you're at, okay, is maybe your place for that day. Because
Mm,
I was in, the music retail industry for 25 years. It prepared me for what I'm doing today. It truly did. It wasn't like, oh, those were wasted years. No, not at all. I was
yeah.
very active in my church. I was leading a life group. I was on the worship team. I was doing all the things. I was checking all the boxes, right?
Mm,
It was nothing like, oh, he's out of God's will. No, not at all. But when you hear God say, hey, I have something else for you, what you do is you pray about it, which I did. I really did. I eventually did start truly praying about it, even though I told, my rep at the time, hey, I'll pray about it, and kind of blew it off. And you seek counsel, which I sought to with my wife. Well, okay, first of all, but you seek counsel with others, your pastor, right? Maybe a mentor, something like that. Have them pray about it also. So it's not just you're not out there just solo, kind of thing, because God will talk to them and speak through them also. If my wife wasn't on board with that, even though I was feeling pretty strong about it, because I know she was sincere and she has a good relationship with the Lord, then maybe I was just a little cloudy. But she was like, no, I feel like, and look, most of the time it is the females that want the security. So for her to say, yeah, let's just step out on faith, that was a big deal. It was a
yeah.
really big deal. And she has supported me the entire time. I mean, sometimes I have late nights, I have long appointments. I miss some things. Sometimes I've missed a few things here and there, but fortunately with my schedule, I can kind of make it so I don't miss things. But I have missed a few things. And she has never given me any grief about that at all, because she knows this is what God's called me to do. And so, that's the thing. So pray, make sure, you're here listening to God, seek counsel. I would say fast and
Mm,
pray, and when it's God, then do it. Just do it. He wants our obedience. He wants
yeah.
us to be obedient, and he will take care of us. So if we're obedient and not just on a whim, but truly God's will, he will take care of you.
Man, where else can you go except Callings and Careers and hear a finance money guy talking about God wants our obedience? I'm telling y'all, man, this is legit. You hear me? This is legit. I love it. Hey,
Yeah.
so we've never talked about this, so I might be putting you on the spot a little bit. But what's your take on the hustle and grind culture?
Well, I mean, define that a little bit more
Okay.
for me. Yeah.
Well, the folks that are out here that feel like they have to have like 3 or 4 different jobs, multiple streams of
Oh,
income, and you know, just kind of always chasing the dollar kind of thing.
well, it's funny because that's what I thought. That's what I thought where you're going. I just want to make sure I get it right. I'm not always up with the latest slang, but yeah, my grandfather, who was a great man, he's a really good Christian man, but he loved going to flea markets, man, and he loved bartering and stuff. Some people, they just love doing that, and you know what? If you love out there and working multiple jobs and hustling it and stuff, and that's maybe a part of how you were brought up, and you like it, and you feel God's called you to do that, that's wonderful. That's great if you like it. But if it really is a grind, then you're going to need to reevaluate that, because God doesn't want us to live in a grind, right? He doesn't want us to, be, nickel and diming it, and that kind of thing, because a lot of times that leads to deceit, right? We're being deceitful to other people, and He wants us to live a life that, again, it's an open hand, and it's not just with our treasures. It's our time, our talent, and our treasures, right? And when people are in a place of financial security or surplus, they tend to give more of their time, like volunteering, parking cars at the church, anything, right? I mean, just helping out, your local nonprofit, going down there and helping out the homeless, helping out feed, people that are on the street, whatever it is, you tend to just give more of your time, even to friends, right? Go listen to a friend, go sit down and have lunch with them, just to listen to what they have to say. Don't talk a lot, just listen. That's your time. It's an hour of your time, but maybe they really need somebody to talk to, So people tend to do that whenever they are in a better place financially. But if you're thinking about keeping the electric on and stuff like that, you're just going to find yourself not doing that as often. So again, if some people like to be busy and doing this, that, and the other, and have multiple jobs and stuff, nothing wrong with that, if that's what you truly feel the Lord's called you to. But again, if it becomes a grind, I more than likely you need to reevaluate that and see if it truly is what God wants you to do.
All right, Callings and Careers is complete now. My co-host is back. Yeah, I don't know what kind of schedule Jessica got going on, but she told me, I ain't got time for you today. I get on there when I want to get on there. No, she didn't really tell me that. I'm just joking, Jessica. What's up?
Jokes. I can't. I feel like I came in just at the right time. I feel like the Lord must have been ministering to me with what our guest was sharing, because you have to have that grace over the grind, and it's time to have the assessment of, are we trusting God with our budget? And are we trusting God with our boundaries as well? So I came in just at the right time.
Yeah.
Jimmy, didn't I tell you that Jessica is the great alliterator? Didn't
Yes,
I tell
you did. Yes, you did.
Budget and boundaries and all of that.
Yeah. She asked me about asking you for more money. So
Okay. So I definitely came.
Yeah. So Pastor, so that's why she was late today. She was just showing you what it's like without her. So she's using that as a leverage tool to get more money.
Y'all know it's showtime today.
Listen,
look,
if there's a budget for calling and careers that I don't know about, then we got to have a conversation offline, Jessica.
Exactly.
I was gonna say I missed that meeting.
Yeah, I missed it too.
Oh man, that's great.
No, this is good, Jimmy. I do want to. I'm going to give Jessica time enough to maybe catch up with the conversation a little bit, because we've talked about. Man, you've dropped some great wisdom tips on us today about mindset, give, save, spend, being compensated for your value, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute as well. We talked about performance evaluation, salary reviews, cost of living increases. Asking yourself, what can I do to make more money? Which I think is even an important question, because I think if you're working for a organization, a church, a business, a corporation, a Fortune 500, whatever it may be, I mean, you gotta be able to answer the question, even from a monetary perspective, man, how am I contributing to the bottom line?
Yeah.
And you talked about that earlier. I forget the phrase that you said. Let me see if I can go back. I made a note. Oh, you said you're constantly being evaluated every day. You're constantly being evaluated every day. So I think it becomes hard. I want you to speak into this, Jimmy. I think it becomes hard if you as an employee can't even answer how you're helping to add to the bottom line for the organization. Speak to that some, or talk about that a little bit.
No, and there's two parts to that, right? So it's like you think you are, but maybe you're not. Okay. It could be. And what is that? What does that look like? Has the company given you those guidelines? So it can be very unfair sometimes. If you're not given a performance evaluation, it's hard to know am I contributing, right? You think I'm working hard. I sweat. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I think I'm really working hard, but are you really contributing to the overall company? And the important thing is maybe you don't know that, right?
Mm.
You don't know what it is. You don't know the intricacies of the company itself, and maybe to no fault of yours. So, you have to ask. You have to ask. Now, if your company does do the performance evaluations, awesome. They will tell you that you're doing really good in this department. You get an A in this, but you get a C in this, and you're getting a B in this, and so on and so forth. And those are great to have, right? They can really help. Companies can really benefit from those, but a lot of companies don't do those. So you have to ask, what can I do to be a more productive employee? Companies aren't going to dish you for that. They're going to be excited that that you want to contribute to the company and make it better. So, and then it will give you those guidelines of what you need to do to be a more contributing factor for that company.
Yeah. Let me ask this. I want to pivot really quickly. And I know Jessica's going to probably jump in here in a moment as well. Just don't want her to walk in hot and blind to the conversation. Yeah. But earlier you talked about, you used the example and you said, there may be a job that you're considering, 2 jobs you're considering, and the numbers you use, you said, one job is offering 20,000, but they're offering a better benefits package than a job that's offering 22,000 or 25,000. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about what should people be looking for if a job has a benefits package. What are some of the basics that they should be looking for? And then maybe what are some of the pluses of things that they should be looking for?
Yeah, a lot of times people don't even know what to look for, right? So, and what you should be looking for is going to change from person to person because different people have different needs, okay? A single person right out of college has different needs than someone who's, 28 and has 2 children and a wife, right? So their needs are completely different. So a benefits package is usually going to consist of a retirement plan, okay? And that retirement plan is usually like a 401k, a 403b if you're like in the medical field, something like that. And also, does the company offer a match? Is there a match? Look, if anyone is working for a company and they have a retirement plan and the company is offering a match, this is so important. You need to participate in that plan because that's free money. That's free. What?
No, I was going to say why, and then break that down because we hear that, but break that down.
Because it's free money. If a company is willing to give you money, if you put in $3, they will give you $3, right? Who else is doing that out there? No one. No one's giving away free money. So put money into it, especially if you're a younger person. I mean, anyone should do this. It's free money. So, and again, very rarely does anyone even miss this. Participate in the plan. Find out what the match is, not what the maximum is, okay, but what the match is. So let's say a company says, well, we will match 100% of the first 6%. So 6% of your salary will go into this plan and they will match it, okay? So you put in $6, they're going to put in $6. But you can put in 10. Well, that's not always best to put in that extra 4%, okay? There might be a better place to put that, okay? But that's off the table right now. Take advantage of the match. It's free money. No one else is giving away free money. So if you're not participating, participate, okay? You won't even miss the money more than likely. So also, life insurance. Life insurance is important, and usually through a group plan is the cheapest place you're going to find life insurance, disability insurance. And again, there's short-term disability insurance, there's long-term disability insurance. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have these things outside of a company because when you leave the company, you're going to leave those things, okay? So it's good to have outside sources of these things also. But oftentimes it's free or it's just pennies on the dollar to participate in some of these things. So yeah, and again, different packages have different things in them, but the retirement plans are important because look, you think Social Security is in bad shape now? What do you think if someone is in their 20s, they're going to be working for 4 decades? What do you think Social Security is going to look like then? So look, your retirement plan may be your main fallback, okay? Because if you think Social Security is in bad shape now, there's a good chance it could be in really bad shape in 3-4 decades.
I was surprised, Jimmy, when you talked about benefits package. I was surprised that you didn't list, or maybe you didn't have time to yet, but flexibility. Some people have really, valued on a job flexibility. And I know there's lots of debates. Jessica and I have talked about this in previous shows about remote work versus working in the office. So there's a big debate around that, but that's a part of conversation around benefits packages and that kind of thing. I will ask you this also really fast. I'm talking about this. I don't want to lose this thought. You talked about life insurance. There's so much confusion about, like, you know, is it term? Is it whole? Like, what's the deal, man?
I know, right? You hear all kinds of stuff out there about all kinds of things. And look, the best thing is obviously see a financial advisor. Okay. You don't know what you don't know. It doesn't cost anything. I sit down with people. It doesn't cost them a dime.
Didn't cost me a dime to sit down with him, y'all.
It's an hour. We sit down. We talk about your situation, you know, because everyone listening to this, your situation is unique to you. You can talk to family members. You can talk to people around the water cooler, but no one has your exact situation. And so what an advisor can do is help you to pinpoint those things that are important to you. And so I tell my clients, you going for a new job? Let's look at the benefit. You got a new job? Let's look at the benefits pack. I go through that with them. You know, we look at that. We look at, you know, their 401k and whatever else is going to be available to them. And I help to advise around that type thing. You know, a lot of this advice is completely free. Now, some people, they will only charge, or if you have an X amount of money, you know, to come in. I don't do that. I like to sit down with anyone. Everyone needs advice. Everyone needs a plan. If you don't have a plan, you need a plan, you know, and your plan in your 20s is different than your plan in your 50s. Okay. So you're unique. Your situation is unique. No one has needs a plan exactly like yours. So there's no cookie cutter solutions. It needs to be, you know, customized for you. But people are scared. They don't know a financial plan. I don't know, financial advisor. What does that look like? Trust me, it's low pressure. It's, you know, it's just a discussion. It's just like this. It's just talking. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you mentioned that our plans are unique to us, because even as you were talking, it's also about, it's the money for your present, it's the money for your future in terms of retirement, but it could even be about the money about your past. So if you're like me, I'll raise my hand. I have student loans. So you want to talk to your employer about what's the benefit to working with you, so that I know, you know, is there any way that you could pay for my college education? Is there any way you can pay for past debts or anything of that nature when you are taking on a job? And the other side to it is the benefits in terms of wellness. So we talked about life insurance, but also health insurance. You know, your health is your wealth. So if they don't have a good plan, and I've seen it happen over and over again with my therapy clients, where they're struggling mentally, their jobs are putting the pressure on them, but they can't afford therapy. They can't afford coaching services to get a better job. They can't afford the financial services. You know, I mean, you know, definitely take on the financial services that are free, low cost, like today's episode. Here's a free up. Here's, you can't find it for free. You know, hit the replay button. You got it for free. Those are benefits that you definitely want to make sure that you're having a conversation about.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I want to acknowledge is also, and we're still talking about, I want to go back to the benefits package in a minute, but this can be intimidating for some people. You know, money, salary, that's one of those things that they tell you, you don't walk up to somebody and ask them their salary. So Jimmy, what do you say to people who are listening to this and they're nervous about sitting down with someone and bearing their financial soul, so to speak? They get ready to tell them you know, what am I making? Part of that is because they put their identity on their salary, right? So your worth is based upon how much you're making, and that's not fair. That's a whole nother conversation, maybe a whole nother episode. Jessica can come and give us the psychology behind that. But talk about that for a moment. How does a person get past the intimidation of sitting down with a financial advisor, with a financial coach, or something to that effect?
Yeah, well, acting as a fiduciary, what happens is you're bound to secrecy, basically, and to do what's in the best interest of the client. Okay, so there's no judgment. I mean, it really doesn't matter what a person's done right or done wrong. It's just what they've done, right? Our job is kind of like, as an investigator, to try to find solutions for whatever a person's goals are, as well as their concerns. It really comes down to those two things. What are your goals and what are your concerns? What bothers you and how can we fix those things that bothers you, that keeps you up at night? And then what are the goals, and what can we do to actually help you to reach those goals, whatever it is that the Lord's calling you to do, whether it's buy a house, buy a car, have a family, whatever, right? So whatever those goals are. And so, as far as the finance part, it's not discussed with anyone. I tell my clients all the time, look, I don't discuss this with anyone. I don't discuss it with my wife or anyone else. I get referrals all the time from a family member to another family member. I cannot share information from one to the other. They do not know. They can share all they want with one another, but a mom to a son or a dad to a daughter or whatever, if I meet with them, it stays right here between us two. And if they want to say something to their parent or a sibling or whatever else, they can, but it doesn't come from me. So it's very confidential. Yeah, of course.
The first time I sat down with a financial advisor, we met at a restaurant, and when I walked in, and we kind of just did some small talk at first, and he said, before we jump into some of the specifics, he said, "This is how much I make annually. This is my credit score, and this is how much debt I have. So now that I've told you that, you shouldn't have any shame about answering my questions." And then jumped into it. I was like,
that's one way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know how to respond to that. I was like, all right, thank you. All right, I'm good now. Yeah. So, go ahead, Jessica. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, just to your point about talking about money, money is a taboo subject, between money and politics. Those are things that are people want to keep secret, and people may feel ashamed of, but what you keep secret and what you're ashamed of keeps you shackled. So if you are definitely setting yourself up for a life of successfully being stressed out, or you could be successfully with a plan. So it's your decision. I definitely say, if he's just told you, it's completely confidential, there's no judgment, and their whole job is to get you to your goals and to address your concerns.
That's exactly right. And, another thing is, we know that we're all raised differently with finances. We're talking about money or not talking about money, like you said, Jessica, and that can lead to one of the biggest reasons why people have arguments or marriages break up. And so it's important that we have that conversation. I've even done a workshop. It's called From Me to We. And it's from a person going from single to married before they actually walk down the aisle and discussing, finances, because before that, you're just going out, right? You're just going out, buying popcorn, going to the movies, whatever. And all of a sudden you're thrown into this relationship to where it's like, do we have separate bank accounts? Do we have one bank account? Do we, are we going to give? Are we going to give to the church? If we do, are we going to give off the gross? Or are we going to give off the net? Are we going to, give offerings? Or are we going to give to other things? What are we going to do? And that's not a good time to all of a sudden have those conversations after you're already married, right? So, we discuss, how were you raised? How do you think about money? Was it discussed in the family, or was it not discussed? Were my parents good, or grandparents or guardians, whoever raised me, were they a good example, or were they a bad example? I have a guy that I work with, actually, he works in a different department, but his father was a spender. They never had anything. And so he became very much a miser, but almost to the extreme on the other way. So, and he recognized that, and he's like, I've got to start releasing some of this, So the way we were raised with money has a huge influence on what we do with money. And so it's just important that we get good guidance, right, on that, especially before we actually, have that relationship, in marriage.
Yeah, that's good. Jessica, other things you're thinking about?
Absolutely, especially in the body of Christ, because sometimes.
No, go ahead.
Absolutely. I think in the body of Christ, money can be especially taboo because, the Bible talks about not having the love of money. And so people really shy away from having those open discussions with it. And a lot of times as Christians, people are nervous about being wealthy or about talking about building wealth for future generations because but they don't understand that wealth can actually position the body of Christ to do even more. So you want to think about past generations, like our guest mentioned, but also what about paying it forward? There's a culture that says, I want to make sure that I set up 7 generations forward. What do they need? Absolutely. Great stuff.
That's good. That's good. So I know our time is getting away from us, as it always does. And Jessica and I are actually preparing to also talk about this in our next episode as well, continuing the conversation around salary negotiations, how to have the hard conversations around money as it relates to your career. Jimmy, what other wisdom did you think we might share today that we didn't? Or what other things are on your heart that kind of bubbling up underneath the surface that you're like, man, okay, this is something else I probably wish I would have said as well. Anything else there?
Oh, gosh. I mean, there, around money, it's it's one of those things, and I don't know if you know it, but it's talked about more in the Bible than heaven or hell. It's,
Wow.
yeah, money is talked about more than heaven or hell. So it's important. It's not important that we again can give to God, because God owns it all. He has it all, but that we're not bound to it, right? That we can give it away. And that requires us to live within our means. And so what is that? What does that look like? What is within our means? Because the world is telling us one thing always. Again, just go out on the road and look at all the signs down the road. All those signs are all telling you, spend your money here, right? So next time you're on a road, just look at all the signs, all the businesses, they're saying, come spend your money here. You need to control your money, right? You need to be in charge of your money and have a plan for your money. And if you don't have a plan for the money that comes in that you work hard for every week, it's gonna evaporate. It's gonna disappear. So I say, when they talk about currency, it's like a current, right, in a river. It's a current, and what you want to do is that money comes in, you want to have those canals where you're putting that money. This money goes here, this money goes there, and you don't want any slipping out through the bottom. Even your play money, you want to have a place for it. You don't want anything slipping out through the bottom. So again, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but those are just a few real quick things.
That's good. That's good. Jessica, any other questions you have? I know you came in right at the middle of the conversation and you had a previous appointment that you had to navigate, but anything else, at least for this conversation today, that you want to just mention or raise?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that money is not taboo. Money is a way for us to give back to the community, for us to ensure that we leave a legacy, and there's a legacy of wealth and not of debt for our families. And it's not something that is just for the world. It's something that can be used to further the kingdom of God. And I think that it's also important to remember that our employers are not there to make us wealthy. It's about our decisions. So make a decision to talk to a financial advisor. Your employer is just there to tell you to provide the salary imagery. I love the imagery of the canal or the current, and I'm going to go back and make sure that all of mine are going to the right spaces. I hope that everyone else does the same.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good. Well, listen, I told you all at the beginning of the conversation that Jimmy is actually one of my wife and I's financial advisors personally for our home, and also in terms of helping us to navigate retirement and investments and that kind of thing. He helps several members of our church as well, including our pastor and his family. So if you're interested in somebody that I would speak to credibility and validity in terms of what they're offering, here's a way that you can get in touch with Jimmy. That's his phone number. And I know that he'll be glad to get in touch with you. He also has content that he puts out on a regular basis. Jimmy, what's your Facebook account again?
It's Jimmy Moore, Thrivent, THRIV as in Victor, ENT. So yeah. Jimmy Moore -Thrivent.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Jimmy, we're Jessica and I are going to have you back on at some point. This conversation has been absolutely amazing and incredible today. And I'm glad you had the time to make it work. Glad you had a safe conference and trip back. And so, yeah, any closing comments or remarks at all from today?
I just thank you once again. I mean, my passion is financial education for the kingdom. Yeah. And so what I can do to help people become more financially literate, that's what I want to do, because I know it makes a huge difference in the kingdom.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Jessica, anything else on your end before we end for today?
You can do it. You can do it. Whatever the goal is, whatever the concern is around money, you can do it. And if you don't think you can, hit the rewind button and make sure you go on Facebook to talk to Jimmy.
There you go. Jessica, tell everybody where they can find you really fast, sis.
You can find me anywhere you see Jessica Canty. So at Jessica Canty on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, email. You can send me an email, jessicacanty@jessicacanty.com. I hope to hear from you.
If you do not get an automatic reply from the email you send it to the wrong email. If you hit her on Instagram or Facebook and you do not get an automatic reply, you send it to the wrong person. Because she gonna hit you with that.
It's the wrong Jessica Canty. It's the wrong Jessica Canty if you did.
I love it. I love it. Hit me up at ChristopherJHarris.com or at diversechurchjobs.com. This is Callings and Careers. We'll be back in just a few weeks with you, Jessica and I, talking more about how to advance in your career, how to flourish in your faith. You can do both. You can flourish in your faith in the workplace, and we're committed to helping you discover your calling and developing your career. Have an amazing day, everybody. We'll see y'all soon. Peace.